Have you ever wondered why there are exactly 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour? Why does a circle have 360 degrees? Or why does the story of a great flood appear in nearly every religion across the world? And here's an even bigger question that might blow your mind. Have you ever stopped to think that before ancient Egypt, before Greece, before Rome, and even before the Great Pyramid of Giza was built, there existed a mysterious civilization that we call Sumer? This is the story of a civilization that appeared seemingly out of nowhere, suddenly exploded with inventions that were millennia ahead of their time, and then vanished into the desert sands, leaving behind countless unanswered questions that challenge everything we think we know about human history. Close your eyes and imagine this. 6,000 years ago, when our ancestors were still living in caves, hunting and gathering, and didn't even know what writing was, there was a group of mysterious people in a barren land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers who built massive cities, invented the wheel, created the first writing system, and possibly made contact with beings from the stars. Welcome to the world of the Sumerians, where every miracle and mystery of human civilization began. But here's what will really make you question everything. What if I told you that these ancient people knew things about our solar system that we only discovered in the last few centuries? What if they left behind evidence of technology so advanced that we're still trying to understand it today? And what if their gods weren't mythological at all, but actual visitors from somewhere else in the universe? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into the most fascinating mystery in human history, one that might change how you see our place in the cosmos forever. The sudden emergence. In 1922, when archaeologist Leonard Woolley first excavated the ancient city of Ur, he was so shocked he couldn't believe his own eyes. Because what he found wasn't evidence of a primitive civilization struggling to survive, but ruins of an incredibly sophisticated and advanced society. The archaeological discoveries proved that Ur was a major Sumerian urban center in the Mesopotamian plain. The discovery of the royal cemetery of Ur further confirmed this. These tombs, filled with luxurious treasures from the 25th to 24th centuries BCE, revealed a civilization that had reached the pinnacle of development. But here's the strangest part. They seemed to appear out of thin air. Modern historians consider Sumer to be the first recorded civilization, predating Egypt, Greece, and Rome. There are no signs of gradual development, no transitional phases. They appeared as if one day out of nowhere, with complete knowledge and fully developed technology. Think about this for a moment. Every other civilization we know of shows clear signs of evolution, from simple hunter-gatherer societies to agricultural communities to early cities. But not the Sumerians. They burst onto the scene with complex writing, advanced mathematics, sophisticated architecture, and urban planning that wouldn't look out of place in a modern city. The alien language, not of this earth. And the story gets even more mysterious when we look at their language. Sumerian doesn't resemble any other language on Earth. It's not Indo-European, not Semitic, not Sino-Tibetan, or any other language family we know. It's completely isolated, as if it was brought from somewhere else. Linguists call Sumerian an isolated language, meaning it has no relatives on this planet. This makes many people ask a disturbing question. Did the Sumerians actually originate from Earth? Most languages can be traced back to common roots, showing how human societies migrated and evolved. But Sumerian, it stands completely alone, like a linguistic UFO that crash-landed in ancient Mesopotamia. First mind-blowing fact, they knew about our solar system. Here's something that will make you rethink everything. In a Sumerian cylinder seal known as VA243, there are star symbols and 11 circular objects that some researchers believe represent the Sun, Moon, and 10 planets, including a mysterious world called Nibiru. Wait, how could they know about distant planets in our solar system when telescopes were only invented a few hundred years ago? Neptune wasn't discovered until 1846, Uranus until 1781, yet the Sumerians, 6,000 years ago, were carving them into stone. Recent analysis of Sumerian astronomical texts shows they had incredibly accurate knowledge of planetary orbits, lunar cycles, and even predicted eclipses with precision that rivals modern calculations. How is this possible for people who supposedly lived in mud huts and rode donkeys? Writing, a gift from the sky. Writing, law, cities, and science, all of these revolutionary creations were invented by the resilient people living in Sumer, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, about 5,000 years ago. But hold on a second. Do you know how incredibly difficult it is to invent writing? It should take thousands of years for humans to develop, from drawing pictures on cave walls to creating abstract symbols that represent sounds and ideas. Yet the Sumerians, seemingly in a very short time, created the cuneiform writing system with over 500 different characters. Not only that, they didn't stop at recording goods and transactions. They wrote poetry, composed epics, and even recorded beer recipes. The world's oldest beer recipe from 3900 BCE was found on Sumerian clay tablets, with instructions so detailed we could brew it today. Here's what's truly mind-boggling. Their first writing appears fully formed. There's no evidence of the gradual development you'd expect. It's as if someone handed them a complete writing system and said, "Here, use this." The wheel more than just transportation. Everyone knows the Sumerians invented the wheel. But few people know they didn't just use wheels for transportation. The Sumerians were the first to use copper to create useful objects, from spear tips to chisels and razors. They also created art with copper, including impressive panels depicting strange winged beings wearing masks and operating mysterious flying machines. Their wheels weren't just practical tools. In many Sumerian artworks, wheels appear as sacred symbols, often accompanied by flying creatures soaring through the sky. Could these be depictions of the chariots of the gods that ancient texts often mention? But here's where it gets really weird. Sumerian artwork frequently shows these wheels alongside beings that don't look entirely human, beings with elongated heads, strange clothing, and what appears to be advanced technology. The Base 60 System: Secrets of the Universe. Why did the Sumerians choose 60 as the base for their counting system? This is truly bizarre because most other civilizations used systems based on 10, the number of fingers, or 20, fingers and toes. The number 60 has special mathematical properties. It's divisible by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, and 60. This makes it incredibly useful for astronomy and complex calculations. But how could ancient farmers understand such sophisticated mathematical properties? And more importantly, their system was so perfect that we still use it today. 60 seconds are 1 minute, 60 minutes are 1 hour, 360 degrees in a circle. They calculated lunar cycles and predicted eclipses with astounding accuracy. Did someone teach them this knowledge? Advanced metallurgy and engineering. Recent archaeological discoveries have revealed that Sumerians had metallurgical knowledge that shouldn't have existed for another 1,000 years. They created bronze alloys with precise compositions, worked with gold using techniques we're still trying to understand, and built structures with engineering principles that modern architects struggle to replicate. They had plumbing systems, sewage treatment, and even air conditioning in some buildings. How did they know about fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, and structural engineering without any apparent period of learning and development? The world of mythology, gods from the stars. And now we come to the part that might make you rethink everything. In ancient Sumerian texts, there are mentions of a group of beings called the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were a group of deities in ancient Mesopotamian mythology. The exact meaning of this term, which means royal offspring in Sumerian, is still not clearly defined, as the number, names, and functions of these deities varied according to the limited historical texts scholars have found. But in specific descriptions, the Anunnaki were portrayed unlike traditional gods. They were described as human-like beings with advanced technology, and most importantly, according to Sumerian cuneiform texts translated by credible scholars, the Anunnaki were said to be ancient space travelers who came to Earth to mine gold, impart vast knowledge, and create Homo sapiens to function as workers. Think about this. These weren't described as mystical, ethereal beings living in some spiritual realm. They were described as physical beings who traveled in vehicles, had technology, and most importantly, could interbreed with humans. The story of Nibiru, the 12th planet. Scholar Zechariah Sitchin claimed that the creation of ancient Sumerian culture was due to the Anunnaki, whom he claimed was an alien race from a planet beyond Neptune called Nibiru. He claimed that Sumerian mythology suggested that this hypothetical planet Nibiru had an orbit lasting 3,600 years. According to Sumerian texts, it was recorded that the Anunnaki came from Nibiru, and the ancient Sumerians believed that Nibiru was actually a planet, a gateway, or a place of intersection. This opens up the possibility that the Anunnaki traveled through space via stargates and wormholes. While many modern scientists dismiss this theory, it's undeniable that the Sumerians had astronomical knowledge far beyond their time. How did they know about planets invisible to the naked eye? Why did they describe the solar system with astounding accuracy? Here's something that will give you chills. In 2016, astronomers announced the possible existence of Planet 9, a large planet in the outer solar system. The orbital characteristics they described bear striking similarities to ancient Sumerian descriptions of Nibiru. The Epic of Gilgamesh, a true story. And we can't forget the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's oldest work of literature. This might not just be mythology, but could be a record of actual events. Gilgamesh was described as a king with superhuman strength, nearly 12 feet tall, who could fight giant monsters. Interestingly, this epic contains descriptions of a global flood, a story almost identical to Noah's story in the Bible, but written thousands of years earlier. Could Gilgamesh have been a hybrid between the Anunnaki and humans? Could the story of the Great Flood be humanity's actual memory of a global catastrophe that occurred thousands of years ago? But here's the really disturbing part. Recent archaeological discoveries have found evidence of massive flooding in the Mesopotamian region around the time these stories were said to take place. Geological evidence suggests there may have been several catastrophic flood events in human prehistory. Technology and engineering, too advanced for their time. Let's talk about the ziggurat towers. These weren't just simple religious buildings, but could have been structures with technical purposes. The ziggurat of Ur was as tall as a 7-story building, constructed with astounding precision. The stone blocks were cut and assembled so perfectly that you can't slide a sheet of paper between the gaps. This required technology and engineering far beyond the capabilities of that era. And here's the strangest part. Many ziggurats were built with precise orientation toward specific constellations. The ziggurat of Ur points toward the constellation Draco. The ziggurat in Babylon points toward Orion. Why? What for? Some researchers suggest these towers could have been beacons, navigation signals for spacecraft from the sky. Could this have been where the Sumerians communicated with their Anunnaki gods? Recent analysis using ground-penetrating radar has revealed that many ziggurats have complex internal structures, chambers, passages, and spaces that serve no apparent religious purpose. What were they for? Superior irrigation systems. Unmanned aerial vehicles have identified a 12-mile, 9 kilometers canal in rural Iraq. This is just a small part of the massive irrigation system the Sumerians built. They transformed a barren desert region into a garden of paradise through a complex network of canals. But what's astounding is that they calculated the slopes of these canals with precision to the centimeter. A slight error would mean water wouldn't flow, or would flow too fast and erode the canal. How could ancient farmers perform such complex hydraulic calculations? Did someone teach them? Recent computer modeling of Sumerian irrigation systems shows they were more sophisticated than many modern water management systems. They included overflow channels, siltation controls, and even what appears to be automated gates. Medicine and surgery. In Sumerian clay tablets, we find detailed descriptions of surgical procedures. They knew how to perform brain surgery, bone grafting, and even eye transplants. One clay tablet describes the process of renewing a person. Could this be describing genetic manipulation? Another tablet talks about combining the essence of two species to create a new species. Could this be describing genetic engineering? Here's something that will shock you. Sumerian medical texts describe procedures for organ transplantation, including what appears to be heart surgery. They had detailed knowledge of human anatomy that wasn't rediscovered until the Renaissance. The mysterious DNA of humans. Here's a fact that will amaze you. Human DNA contains 223 genes not found in any other species on Earth. These 223 genes suddenly appeared about 200,000 years ago, exactly the time when, according to Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki created modern humans. Modern scientists call this the missing link in evolution. Why did humans suddenly leap from being ordinary primates to Homo sapiens with superior intelligence? Why do we have complex language abilities, abstract thinking, and most importantly, the ability to understand the universe? Recent genetic studies have shown that human evolution shows signs of what geneticists call genetic bottlenecks, periods when the human population was drastically reduced and then suddenly expanded with new genetic variations. These bottlenecks coincide suspiciously with the time frames mentioned in Sumerian texts. Gold. Why was it so important? According to Sitchin, the journey to Earth was the result of their atmosphere declining. They came seeking gold particles used for reflective properties to put into their atmosphere. Interestingly, the Sumerians were indeed obsessed with gold in an unusual way. They mined gold on an industrial scale, and in their texts, gold was described as food of the gods. Why? Gold isn't edible, couldn't be used as weapons in the Bronze Age. So why was it so important? Today, NASA uses gold to coat astronauts' visors and space equipment because of its excellent reflective properties. Did the Sumerians know about this 6,000 years ago? Here's something that will make you think. Recent analysis of ancient Sumerian gold objects shows they contain isotope ratios that don't match gold from Earth-based sources. Where did this gold come from? Accurate star maps. In many Sumerian artworks, we see star maps with incredible accuracy. They accurately drew the positions of stars in the constellations Orion, Draco, and even some stars only visible with modern telescopes. How could they know this? And more importantly, why were they interested in those distant stars? Recent computer analysis of Sumerian astronomical records shows they tracked celestial objects with precision that wouldn't be achieved again until the invention of modern telescopes. They knew about stellar precession, planetary retrograde motion, and even calculated the length of the year to within minutes of our modern measurements. New findings about Sumerian mythology. Before we dive into the latest findings, let me tell you about one of the most exciting recent discoveries that perfectly illustrates how much we still don't know about the Sumerians. In 2019, researchers finally decoded a mysterious clay tablet called Ni 12501, a 4,400-year-old Sumerian tablet that had been sitting in museum collections since the 19th century. Despite being discovered over a century ago at the ancient city of Nippur in southern Iraq, this fragmented tablet was largely ignored by scholars due to its damaged condition. But when modern translation techniques were applied, what they found was astounding. An entirely unknown Sumerian myth about the storm god Ishkur being captured and taken to the underworld. This wasn't just another version of a known story. This was completely new mythology that had been lost to time for over 4,000 years. Think about this. We're still finding major pieces of Sumerian literature that could completely change our understanding of their worldview. If we're still discovering fundamental texts after 150 years of study, what else are we missing? Ni 12501 provides deep insights into Mesopotamia's rich mythological treasure, but also emphasizes the need for continued archaeological investigation to help fill gaps in our understanding of the Mesopotamian worldview and literary works. Scientists are still constantly discovering new clay tablets with increasingly strange content. A recently found tablet describes flying machines of the gods with astounding technical details. Another speaks of gateways between worlds. In 2019, archaeologists discovered a cache of tablets that appear to describe what can only be called genetic engineering, detailed instructions for mixing the life essence of different creatures. The language is so technical that modern geneticists are studying these texts for insights. Modern technology confirms. With 3D scanning technology and computer analysis, scientists have discovered that many descriptions in Sumerian texts are actually accurate in an astounding way. For example, descriptions of DNA structure in some clay tablets bear uncanny resemblance to what we know today about genetics. Descriptions of the tree of life in the Garden of Eden are identical in shape to the double helix structure of DNA. Recent translation work using AI has revealed that many Sumerian mythological texts contain what appear to be technical manuals, instructions for metallurgy, chemistry, and even what looks like nuclear physics. Archaeological breakthroughs. In 2020, ground-penetrating radar surveys of southern Iraq revealed massive underground structures, cities beneath cities connected by tunnels that stretch for miles. These structures are far more extensive and sophisticated than anything visible on the surface. Satellite imagery has identified geometric patterns in the landscape that can only be seen from high altitude. Massive designs that span dozens of miles and appear to be pointing towards specific star systems. The decline and disappearance. Where did they go? Around 2000 BCE, Sumerian civilization suddenly declined. Not due to war, not due to natural disasters. They seem to be abandoned. The last Sumerian texts have melancholy content, speaking of the gods have left us, and the sky chariots come no more. After that, their advanced knowledge and technology gradually disappeared, as if they had never existed. But here's what's truly chilling. The decline wasn't gradual. Archaeological evidence shows that advanced Sumerian technology simply stopped being used almost overnight. It's as if someone flipped a switch and turned off their civilization. But Sumer's legacy didn't completely disappear. It was passed on to Babylon, Assyria, and eventually Egypt. Many researchers believe that the Egyptians' knowledge of pyramid building, mummification, and astronomy actually originated from Sumer. And more importantly, many stories in the Bible have origins in Sumerian epics. The stories of Adam and Eve, the Great Flood, even the legend of the Tower of Babel, all can be found in original versions in Sumerian literature. Recent linguistic analysis has shown that many fundamental concepts in human civilization, from law and government to mathematics and astronomy, can be traced back to Sumerian origins. It's as if they created the template for human civilization itself. The Great Mystery. Here's what keeps archaeologists awake at night. If the Sumerians were just an advanced human civilization, why did their knowledge disappear when they did? Why didn't surrounding cultures preserve and build upon their innovations? It's as if someone took away not just the people, but the knowledge itself. Libraries were abandoned, workshops were left with half-finished projects, and entire cities were simply walked away from. Living legacy. Though they disappeared 4,000 years ago, Sumer still lives on in our daily lives. Every time you look at a clock and see 60 minutes in an hour, that's Sumer's legacy. Every time you draw a circle with 360 degrees, that's Sumerian mathematics. Every time you read a story about a hero fighting monsters, you're reading a modern version of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Every time you hear about a great flood, you're hearing the story the Sumerians told 5,000 years ago. But their influence goes deeper than that. Our entire concept of civilization, cities, laws, schools, hospitals, all of these were Sumerian inventions. We're still living in the world they created. Modern science and new discoveries. And what's fascinating is that modern science is increasingly confirming things the Sumerians knew long ago. We've discovered that there really are distant planets in our solar system that they described. We know that gold really does have special properties in space technology. We understand that DNA really does have the double helix structure, like their tree of life. We've found evidence that there may have been global catastrophes in the past. Recent breakthroughs in archaeology, genetics, and astronomy are providing new evidence that the Sumerians knew things they shouldn't have known. Each discovery raises more questions than it answers. The search continues. With modern technology, we're gradually decoding more mysteries. Artificial intelligence is helping us translate ancient clay tablets more accurately. Radar technology is finding Sumerian cities buried under the desert. Space telescopes are searching for planets they described. Genetic research is explaining mysteries about human evolution. Perhaps in the near future, we'll find the final answer to the mysteries the Sumerians left behind. 3 possibilities. Faced with all this evidence, we have 3 possibilities to explain. Possibility 1. The Sumerians were just an intelligent and lucky civilization. They independently developed all this knowledge and technology. All the strange things in their texts are just mythology and imagination. But this possibility faces a major problem. Why are there no signs of gradual development? Why did they appear with complete knowledge from the start? And most importantly, why, after they disappeared, did humanity lose most of that knowledge and take thousands of years to rediscover it? Possibility 2. There was another advanced civilization before Sumer, perhaps Atlantis or another ancient civilization destroyed by natural catastrophe. The Sumerians inherited knowledge from them. This might explain why Sumer had knowledge beyond their time, but it doesn't explain why their language was completely independent, or why they had knowledge about astronomy that we're still learning about today. Possibility 3. And here's the possibility that makes many people rethink everything. Could the Sumerians have actually made contact with another advanced civilization? Not necessarily extraterrestrial, could be from another dimension, or from the future, or simply a form of intelligent life we don't yet understand. The questions that remain. Whatever you believe, there are still questions modern science cannot answer. Why are 223 genes in human DNA not found in any other species on Earth? How did the Sumerians know about distant planets in our solar system? Why were they so obsessed with gold? How could they build structures with such precision? Why was their language completely unlike any other language? A message for future generations. Here's another possibility I want to share with you. Perhaps the Sumerians were trying to leave messages for future generations, meaning us. They recorded everything on clay tablets that could survive for thousands of years. They built massive structures that can only be fully viewed from above. They left accurate star maps that can only be understood when we have modern telescopes. Could all of this be a time capsule? A message left for a time when humanity would be advanced enough to understand it? Recent discoveries suggest this might be true. Many Sumerian sites align with astronomical events that only occur every few thousand years. It's as if they were designed to be activated when human technology reached a certain level. What if they never left? Here's a thought that might keep you awake tonight. What if the Anunnaki never actually left Earth? What if they're still here, watching, waiting for us to advance enough to rejoin them? Think about it. If you were an advanced civilization and you wanted to guide a younger species without interfering too much, wouldn't you step back and let them develop naturally? Wouldn't you leave clues and messages for them to find when they were ready? Recent discoveries in archaeology suggest that human development has been guided by mysterious influences throughout history. Advanced knowledge appears at crucial moments, almost as if someone was providing hints when we needed them most. The modern connection. And here's something that will really blow your mind. Many of the technologies we've developed in the last century, computers, space travel, genetic engineering, were all described in Sumerian texts thousands of years ago. Computer pioneer John von Neumann admitted he got inspiration for computer architecture from ancient mathematical texts. NASA engineers have studied ancient propulsion descriptions. Genetic researchers are finding that Sumerian creation myths contain surprisingly accurate descriptions of DNA manipulation. Is this coincidence? Or are we rediscovering knowledge that was left for us to find? The next phase. We're living at a unique moment in human history. For the first time since the Sumerians, we have the technology to travel to other planets, manipulate genetics, and possibly make contact with other civilizations. Could this be what the Sumerians were preparing us for? Are we approaching the moment when we're ready to rejoin our cosmic family? Recent developments in space exploration, AI, and genetic engineering suggest we're on the verge of becoming the kind of civilization the Sumerians described, beings capable of traveling between worlds and creating new forms of life. The story continues. When you look up at the night sky tonight, remember that the Sumerians looked up at those same stars 6,000 years ago. What did they see there? What did they know that we don't yet know? The story of Sumer isn't just about the past. It's about us, about our origins, our potential, and our future as a species. Every time we launch a rocket into space, every time we discover a new planet, every time we search for life beyond Earth, we're continuing the journey the Sumerians began long ago. The Sumerian mystery isn't just an interesting story to tell, it's a reminder that we still have so much to learn, so much to discover. Perhaps among those watching this video, there will be someone who becomes an archaeologist, astronomer, or genetic researcher, and will be the one to find the final answer to these mysteries. Recent breakthroughs suggest we're closer than ever to solving the Sumerian puzzle. New archaeological sites are being discovered, new texts are being translated, and new technologies are revealing secrets hidden for millennia. The final question. And now, as our story of Sumer comes to an end, I want to leave you with one final question. If the Sumerians really did make contact with an advanced civilization, and if their Anunnaki gods really existed, could they still be watching us? And more importantly, are we ready to meet them again? Look up at the night sky tonight and ask yourself that question, because maybe, just maybe, the answer is out there among the stars, waiting for us to be wise enough to understand. And the story of Sumer is not over yet.